This is Kentucky Afield Radio. This is Ron Rohde, Kentucky Afield's first host back in 1953. Now, I'm proud to present Charlie Baglin.
Ahoy, Kentucky. It's boating season. For countless thousands across our great state, the water is calling. Lakes, rivers, whitewater streams. And that's our cue to call upon our friends in the know about boating safety, boater education courses, a checklist of some things you might want to have aboard to keep the good times afloat. We go inside outdoors with Maj Shane Carrier and his sidekick, Zac Campbell, who say even if you don't boat, you'll want to after the show. Next on Kentucky Afield Radio.
I don't know what you mean by skipper.
Skipper? Skipper. Skipper.
Skipper.
Hey, Skipper!
What?
Don't skip the life jackets.
Life jackets. You're right. Thanks for the reminder.
Water officers everywhere remind you, your life jackets got your back.
And the backing of everyone that wants you to come home alive.
So, Skipper, don't skip the life jackets. A public service message from your Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife.
আইসক্রিম শেষ হয়ে গেল বাচ্চারা আনন্দ তো মজার দিন ছিল ও কোথায় না এ হতে পারে না 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 আমি বিশ্বাস করতে পারি না এ হতে পারে না 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 না
In other words, don't text and drive. Brought to you by the Kentucky Office of Highway Safety. You are listening to Kentucky Afield Radio. My name is Charlie Baglin, and boy, I tell you, it's time for summer boating season. We are privileged to have behind the microphones today two fellas who know a little bit about boating in Kentucky. Boater Education Coordinator Zac Campbell with the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife, and also with the Division of Law Enforcement there, our state's boating law administrator. Sort of a mouthful, but Maj Shane Carrier, welcome.
Glad to be here.
Thanks a lot.
It's going to be another fun summer on the water. Has anything changed between this summer and summers past?
No, there's no major changes in our actual laws or regulations. Everything has stayed the same. We can revisit those just for a reminder as far as carriage requirements and what you're required to have on your boat while you're out there enjoying the weather and the waters of the Commonwealth. And there's some things to do and some things not to do.
You take a program like this, and it's easy to pigeonhole people into these little infinity groups. Mm-hmm. You know, like, for example, well, if you've got kids, you'll want to listen to this. Or if you ride a red bicycle, then you ought to, well, if you don't ride a bicycle and don't have any red kids, then I've automatically dismissed you from...
Exactly.
But when we talk about boating, no, not everyone has a boat in the driveway.
That's correct.
But I don't know of a soul who wouldn't go at the first opportunity.
Sure, there's a lot of people that get invites kind of the last minute, spur of the moment. They meet somebody, hey, I got a boat, you want to come down to the lake this weekend?
Sure.
So they go to the lake, maybe one time a summer, or there's situations where they may not even be on a boat, but they may be just going to the lake for a picnic and being around the water, and there's still some safety issues that they need to be mindful of when they're around that kind of waterborne environment.
What are the simple things that folks are just overlooking?
Probably our biggest violation, and one of the most important, is probably PFD, Personal Flotation Device. We use that short acronym, common terms, life jacket. There are significant studies that prove that life jacket wear saves lives, and we are trying diligently to get the public to understand that wearing a life jacket may indeed save their life when they're out on the water. It's mandatory for kids, but not for adults. We leave that decision to the adults, and that's okay, but we want them to be educated and understand that they're making an educated decision not to wear it if they choose not to. The law does require there be one available on every boat for the adults. It does not say they have to wear it. It's a carriage requirement. They have to be available.
Is it similar at all to a helmet law for motorcycles?
Similar, and we got some pushback. There's been some talk of making it mandatory for adults to have to wear PFD, and there's different philosophies on that about the government, the big government, protecting me from myself. It's my choice. Tell me the facts, educate me, and I will make my own decision on whether I want to wear a helmet or wear my seatbelt in the car or wear my life jacket on the boat. That's my choice. And we get some pushback from that line of thinking. What we are concerned with in enforcement right now especially is activities that you do that are illegal, that are especially going to endanger other people, such as drinking, boating under the influence, where your actions could cause harm or damage to other people. So we haven't pursued the mandatory wear of PFDs for adults recently. We want them to be educated and know that if you fall out of the boat, there's potential for you to hit your head and unconscious and drown, no matter how well of a swimmer you are, or you get fatigued, or there's situations where the life jacket is definitely going to save your life. Give them those facts and let them make the decision on whether they want to wear it or not. But it does have to be on the boat according to state law right now. There must be one on the boat for everybody on board.
Zac Campbell, you are in the boater education business, and you teach, and you are working with people who do teach the boating safety course in Kentucky. What kind of resistance are you seeing out there for people would just rather not wear a life jacket?
I don't know if it's so much resistance. It's a lack of education, I believe, because with all three examples Major Carrier mentioned, with the helmet, the life jacket, or the seatbelt, it's a proven fact that when all three of those types of safety equipment are worn, people do survive. Reviewing a lot of our boating fatalities, not all the time, but most of the victims were not wearing life jackets. There are times when they have been wearing life jackets, in worst case scenario they perish, but it's just a safeguard. As far as the resistance part, it's just more of a false sense of confidence or more feeling that it's not going to happen to them.
One of the other limiting factors with life jacket wear is simply the environment. They go to the lake, it's hot weather, it's sunny, they want suntans. You said earlier it's bikini season coming up. Most people don't want to put a life jacket on, and the industry is getting better about making them smaller, lighter, more conducive to wear in that kind of environment. But most people go to the lake, and they're either swimming trunks or bikini, and they don't want to put a hot, bulky life jacket on over top of that.
They ruin your tan.
That's some people's outlook on that. And if we could get them to take it off when the boat stops so they can lay out, tan, when the boat's anchored, and then when the boat's underway and they decide it's time to run back to the marina, they're going to change locations, and the boat's going to be on plane and they're above idle speed, put the life jacket on, because that's when there's a potential for a crash. That would help tremendously.
Now you're just talking logic and common sense. I don't know if we really need to go there, because I'm a boater and I know how to swim. I had this neighbor once upon a time. I'll pick on Tommy, because he taught me a lesson. That we were out fishing on the Kentucky River in his boat, and I said, "Tomcat, are you going to wear a life jacket today?" He said, "Life jacket?" And they look at me, and they look at you with those little snarls and life jacket. What do you wear those things for? And I know how to swim. I'll prove those things. And you've heard that time and time and time again, and it's true. He does know how to swim if he isn't bleeding, or if he didn't hit his head, or if he wasn't, or if he didn't have a fish hook in his cheek. Something like that. If you're not choking or gagging for breath, and you're swimming down when you think you're swimming up, then maybe you do need one. Of course, that's logic and common sense. That really doesn't apply. And I don't know how to reach. I don't know. Do you? Have you? Either of you figured out how to reach a drunk motorist that don't drink and drive when they're drunk and everything makes sense, or don't reach a boater about life jackets? Because it is not going to happen to that person.
That's correct.
And it's an important point that you brought up, and also what you said earlier, Major Carrier, is we want to focus on the fact that it could be the other guy. It might not just be your activity. You could be totally following the rules, even sitting out getting a suntan, but you don't know what the other boaters are doing.
That's true.
And it's a great possibility that they could come and run into you, and if you're not wearing your life jacket, then the same deal. It's just, if you can be wearing your life jacket, it's best to wear it whenever you possibly can.
Your life jacket's got your back, so the radio commercials say. I've heard a new one already this spring. Skipper, don't skip the life jackets. At least in that context, you're saying, Skipper, you're in charge of your boat. You might want to make sure that you have life jackets on board. If they don't wear them, they don't got them unless it's a kid.
That's right.
But at least remember, it's your responsibility.
That's correct.
Logic and reason. Got to bear that in mind, even if you know how to swim. Fun summer boating. My name is Charlie Baglin, and you are listening to Kentucky Afield Radio. We are back with Major Shane Carrier, Kentucky's boating law administrator, and boating education coordinator, Zac Campbell, talking about boating season. Memorial Day sort of kicks it all off. Your life jacket's got your back. No truer words have ever been spoken. You should know one thing. Boating is not something you should take lightly. Don't just jump behind the wheel and presume you know it all, because you might not, right, Zach?
And that's one of the big things we keep talking about, education, and a lot of people don't even know about our Kentucky Boater Education course, which one thing that is new this year is that our course that we've offered every year is now you have to register online for the course. It's actually become mandatory to register online. You can find the link to register online through our Kentucky Fish and Wildlife website. We also highly encourage that anyone planning on taking the course go to a link. You can pre-study. Pre-study will really make the class process go better, go a lot smoother, and give the student a much higher chance of passing the course, because it's a lot of information. There's a lot of safety information on the course, and it's a lot to fit into a short 4.5 or 6 hour class period. So we highly recommend pre-studying and taking the course, because like we said before, you might just think you're going out boating and a life jacket is just, you don't have to use it, but if you can just take the course, there's a lot of, we go through a lot of the examples of where people have had life jackets and it's helped them save their life in the past. So any education with boating is good.
That's exactly right. I think that's the key for the future, especially when it comes to boating safety and reducing fatalities on our waters, is to start the education at an early age. You mentioned earlier that, hey, I'm a boater, I've been a boater, and I know how to swim. So you've spent time on the water successfully without incident and maybe didn't wear a life jacket. So it's going to be hard to convince you. But if we can educate these youth at an early age that when they start out, it's just common practice that, hey, when you go to the water, you wear a PFD. It's a trained.
It becomes automatic. It's automatic.
Yes, that's exactly right. And I keep going back to the seatbelt thing. Young adults and kids that have grown up around the seatbelt laws and they know it's mandatory, it's habit. As soon as they get in the vehicle now, the seatbelt goes on. Versus adults who spent several years driving without wearing one, they forget and don't remember. It's kind of the same way with life jackets. If you can start them out at an early age that, hey, you need to do this, then I think that's going to be the key. And it's not just life jackets; it's all the boating safety in general. If we can, we would love to get this type of boating safety course. If there's some way we could get it into the curriculum at schools to touch middle school kids and let all of them experience this boat education course. It's a 4-hour course that we would love to work in somewhere during the school year, just so they get an understanding of what it is when they end up at the lake.
I like the point you made, Zach, that it's not always my fault. Yeah, I mean, if I don't wear a life jacket, and I could go out and boat and fish all day and come home a happy man. But you never know about the idiot that's going to come plowing into the side of me because he's being careless, or she is. And so maybe a life jacket would help me, because you just don't know.
You never know.
Yeah, and it's not just the idiot. It could be the weather. It could be the stump underneath the water. It could be the weather, the environment, and the boaters out there. So there's a lot of variables that...
You are seeing things that I would not have even thought of considering. I'm glad you're on the show today. And Lake Barkley, a shallow lake like that especially, you're going to find things out there right under the surface. So, yeah, it's a smart idea.
And one more to add on there. Early in the boating season, it's always good for each boater, the captain or the skipper, needs to check their safety equipment. Not only their safety equipment, but their actual vessel. If the motor's working properly, just to keep you out of a bad situation. We've already had one fatality this year, and it didn't have anything to do with equipment failure or the operation operator not doing what they're supposed to do, but it's just a matter of incidents can happen. They hit a submerged object and the prop stopped turning and they lost power to their vessel and ended up going over a dam. So it's stuff just... It can happen. So just, be educated and be prepared as possible for everything. But I don't want to just harp on some of the negative stuff. Boating is one of the most fulfilling activities you can do. I'm an avid boater, fisherman, kayaker, and I don't want to scare anybody off the water. And 99% of the time, nothing happens, and it's the most enjoyable experience you can have. It's just a matter of preparing for what could happen.
You were talking about making sure your equipment is up to date and your boat is going to pass inspection, so to say. So let's say you are on the water major carrier, and you've done this a million times. Do a safety check.
Sure.
What is it you're looking for?
Well, there's some different requirements based on the length of the boat, but most traditional recreational boats are greater than 16 feet in length, and that's going to add a couple of different requirements. But the first thing I'm going to ask for is PFDs, personal flotation device, life jackets.
Life jackets.
Yep. Okay. I'm going to want to see one for everybody on board. If there's children on board, I'm going to ask their age, and then and that's at 12 years old. Under the age of 12, so mandatory wear of life jackets. Once we get done with the life jacket checks, the vast majority of boats are petroleum-based, gas-powered, which requires the carriage of a fire extinguisher. We will want to see a serviceable fire extinguisher, one that we can tell is good. Majority of them will have a gauge on them. Some have a push button that you push down, and if it pops back up, it's good. And that's a common thing that we see, especially this time of year early in the season. A lot of times over the winter, if they're sitting out in a freeze-thaw type environment, we'll see a lot of fire extinguishers with the gauge in the red, showing that it's not any good.
Okay, major carrier, we've been talking about what you need to have on board so that if you get stopped, you pass inspection, and if you need these things, that you're good to go on the water. Lighting seems to be one.
Yep.
Can you have headlights, or do you need certain navigational lights on your boat?
You need a red-green front light on the bow of the boat, and then a 360-degree all-around white light on the rear, visible from all sides.
Looks like a glowing golf ball kind of thing.
Kind of, yep.
Okay.
It's got to be visible from 360 degrees all the way around. And then the red and green are visible from the front. I think they're 112 degrees abaft of beam. I know that's a technical terms, but they're not 360-degree visible, and that's simply so other boaters can distinguish direction of travel at night, and those should be the only lights that you have illuminated while you're underway on the waters.
So you can't go very fast, I trust. Can you see very well without a headlight?
It depends on the weather, of course, and then people need to adjust their speed.
It's dark.
Well, your eyes will adjust very quickly to the environment out there, and you can actually see rather well once you let your eyes adjust. There's not an issue with seeing the bank or seeing the turns.
But having a spotlight or even a flashlight, I'm not sure if you wanted to see shine a beam down the lake.
Sure, that's common. People will turn a light on to look ahead and make sure there's no drift or anything like that. Turn it on, check everything, and then turn it off, kind of intermittently on and off.
Yeah.
The issue we run into is if all the boats turned on headlights and we're running around on the lake, it reflects very badly off the water, and then it's hard to distinguish direction of travel. It's really difficult to judge distance at night on the water, and not only distance but speed. Boats you see coming down the lake with a light, it's hard to tell exactly which direction they're going and how fast they're approaching. So it's a safety issue, and these are federal regulations set out by the U.S. Coast Guard regarding additional navigation lights, and they've done multiple studies, and they feel like that the red-green front light and the all-around white light are the safest way to navigate on the waters after dark.
Zachary, you were talking before we went on about there's no painted stripes down waterways. You got boats going in every different direction, and so if you had all these boats with powerful lights shining, it would sort of be havoc, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it's maybe like a disco or something like that.
Yeah.
It's quite. It can be quite. You can be disorientated pretty easily if you know what direction traffic's going in a car. You expect lights to be coming the other direction, and with a boat on the water, all you see is the light. If it's dark outside, you don't really see the boat, so it's hard to tell what direction the boat's going in. Especially if someone doesn't have the proper lighting, they don't have the red-green light up front. It's just a standard that most boaters know. If you're moving, if you're not moving, if you're anchored, it's just a different language. We wish all boaters knew, but it's a good way to learn that language is to come to our boater education course. We have a whole chapter on navigation, not only navigation light, everything you need to do to operate your boat safely.
At what age? Is there a certain age that you absolutely have to take the course, or do you get grandfathered in like hunter education does?
In the state of Kentucky, it's age 12 to 17 that you have to take the course. Anyone over that age, it's not mandatory, but it doesn't mean that knowledge isn't important to learn. It's everything that we can teach you in the course. It's going to make you not only a safer boater, you'll be a more informed boater, and you'll actually enjoy boating more once you've taken all the guesswork out of it.
Okay, so if you're a minor and you're boating,
That's
so
correct.
if you're under 12, I take it you're not going to be operating.
You cannot operate if you're under 12. Ages 12 to 17, if they're operating a boat over 10 horsepower, they must have a certificate showing they completed the Kentucky Safe Boat Education course or an equivalent in another state,
Talking about boating season, Memorial Day sort of kicks it all off. My name is Charlie Baglin. We will have more in our next half hour right here on Kentucky Afield Radio. This is Kentucky Afield Radio. I'm Charlie Baglin, and free is a very nice price, and Free Fishing Weekend is coming up June 7th and 8th. Free Fishing Weekend means no fishing license is required in Kentucky. Not for you, not for your friends coming in from out of state, or if you're listening to us from out of state and would like to come fish Kentucky water, come do it June 7th and 8th, and you don't need a license. Circle June 7th and 8th, that's Saturday, Sunday, for Free Fishing Weekend, when there is no license required to hook some fun. It's time now for our fishing report.
This is Rob Rold in the Northwestern Fishery District with some fishing opportunities in our area. Our two main reservoirs, Rough River Lake and Nolan River Lake, are both back down to summer pool now and holding steady. Bass have spawned at both reservoirs and have moved offshore a bit into deeper water. Lake Malone last week, nice bass were up in the vegetation, back up in the coves, very, very shallow. They were on the nest. They have probably now finished spawning, and they're probably holding a little bit deeper water as well. Saw a lot of nice 20-plus inch fish there. At our smaller impoundments, Mauzé, Carpenter, and Washburn, a lot of nice red ear at all three lakes. Red ear are tending to be a little shallower now, closer to getting on the beds. Bluegill are hanging just a wee bit more offshore than the red ear. Please remember to be safe on the water. Always wear your PFDs.
Hi, this is John Wheels with the Fishery Report for Southeast Kentucky. At Lake Cumberland, the lake is full now, and the striped bass have been biting good. I've heard good reports of some nice-sized striped bass up in the creeks being caught on shad or alewives. Also, the night bite would be in full swing. Those can be caught with slivers or other kind of surface baits. Again, the fish looking a lot better this year. Elsewhere in the district, Cedar Creek Lake, hearing good reports on crappie being caught, and some decent-sized crappie, 10, 11-inch crappie, caught on minnows or small crappie jigs around structure. And as always, if you want a big bass, Cedar Creek's a place to go. A recent sampling showed many bass in the 18 to 20-inch range. So that's a good bet if you want big bass. And as always, good luck and be safe.
Hi, everybody. This is Fred House with the Northeast Fishing Report. Right now would be a fantastic time to fish for largemouth bass at Lake Whalegreen and Lake Reva in Madison County. Our recent bass samples at these lakes show catches of 75 to 100 bass per hour that were greater than or equal to 15 inches long. The bass at these lakes look like footballs. Both of these lakes support a decent bluegill fishery and would be a good place to take a kid fishing. Rainbow trout were just stocked in North Fork and Triplet Creek in Round County, and good places to start fishing for them include Morehead City Park behind Johnson's Church of God and the bridge crossing on Sportsman's Road. Rainbows were also stocked in Middle Fork Red River within the boundaries of Natural Bridge State Park and along East Fork of Indian Creek. Stay safe and always remember to wear your PFD.
Baglin back on Kentucky Afield Radio. If you are between ages 12 through 17 and need to take that Kentucky Boater Education course, here's a little bit of good news. It's not really like getting your driver's license. There's no hands-on. In fact, you can take it online. We will have more with the boys on fun summer boating across Kentucky right after the break.
Helicopter rescue swimmer Mike Bayersky, United States Coast Guard.
Chances are the Coast Guard wasn't there when you went overboard. But when you wear a Coast Guard-approved life jacket, we're closer than you think. Closer when you jet ski, fish, tube, canoe, kayak. There for close calls, when help isn't close at all.
Kentucky conservation officers remind you your life jacket's got your back. And the backing of the best swimmers everywhere.
We are back on Kentucky Afield Radio, and we are looking forward to a wonderful summer. For many of us, that will include boating. In the studio are Zac Campbell, who is the Boating Education Coordinator for the state of Kentucky. Also, the Boating Law Administrator for the state, Maj Shane, Conservation Officer with the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife. The boating safety course is important. Can you all effectively reach out to boating manufacturers, boat dealerships here in the state to urge their customers to take the course?
We do. We work with the marinas. It's a lot of those rent boats. So we talk about the guy who's going and buying one. Well, the majority of our marinas across the state rent boats, oftentimes to people who never boat. So, we would like for the marinas to say that we're not going to rent a boat to anyone who hasn't completed a safe boat education course. But when you're talking about money in today's economy, and if the guy shows up with the money in hand, they're going to rent him the boat. We do have some that are proactive enough that will make them sit down and watch a short, abbreviated video that touches on the main aspects of boating, and that helps. But we've reached out to those, the boat manufacturers, the boat dealers. They understand the importance of it, and we want them to stress to new boat owners when they're buying a boat, hey, it's a great idea if you would go take this class. So yeah, we've tried to reach out to those people, but the short of it is that it's a strong suggestion, but there's nothing that we can do to make them go get this education.
And talking about the marinas, they're a great partner with us. That we teach a lot of our courses on marina property. I'm doing an event with a marina Ready, Set, Wear It event on the 22nd, which is everyone gets together, and it's a life jacket promotion event, so everyone puts on their life jacket at the same time, just prizes, and so the marinas are out there helping us, and it's part of my job to establish that relationship even more. So I'll be traveling the state, visiting marinas, trying to organize events, life jacket and regular boater safety events, partnering with the marinas.
Kid needs to know where to go. Parent needs to know where to take the kid. How do they find this out? And is there a fee for the course?
Well, there's two options. We have our in-person courses, which as of May 1st of this year, you actually have to pre-register for the course. You can do that by going on our Kentucky Fish and Wildlife website and go underneath the Boat Education tab. And there's with those courses, they're in person. They're range from 4.5 to 6 hours. You have to register for the course. Like I said, that's different from last year. It shows a list of locations, how many people are going to be in your class with you, your instructor, all contact information, and also the location and directions to where that course is going to be held. The second option is online course provider. Like I said, with the in-person class, that's free of charge. The difference is with the online course, you go on our website, there's a link to the course. You can go and take that online class on your own time, but that has a $29.95 fee for the course, and that's because it's an outside company.
Yeah, so and you're paying for the convenience of doing it on your schedule when you want. Are you finding that most of the people that take these are just that core group, that 12 to 18, 12 to through 17, or how many adults are you actually find take this?
Oh, there's a good amount of adults. The last class I taught, there was a gentleman that was in there. He was, I think, 82 years old, and he said he'd been boating most of his life, And there was a great portion of the information that he didn't know that he actually learned in the course. But there's more kids, there's more people that fit into that 12 to 17 age bracket, but a lot of times parents will come, take the class with their kids. Boating is a family activity, so it's great for everyone to know all the things they need to do and help remind each other about certain aspects of safety that might forget. But yeah, it's a wide range of ages that can benefit and are benefiting from taking the course.
If they just want to go on and learn more about boating safety and the regulations that are involved, what website do they go to?
We have two websites listed. If you go on our website, there's a link to a boated.com and a boatexam.com. Both are NASPA-approved boating education courses. You get the same exact boater education blue card with either one of the courses, and you can use both as a study guide for the in-person course.
But both can be accessed through our agency website at fw.ky.gov.
FW standing for fishwildlife.ky.gov.
Yep. And also, while we're talking about education, we mentioned briefly about the age groups that are taking it. One other incentive that I've heard, and I don't have a list, but there are numerous insurance companies out there that offer a reduced rate for boat insurance if you provide them with proof that you've taken safe boating class. So there's an economic incentive there as well for adults who aren't mandated by law to take it. There's still a good incentive there for them to take it to might save them a little money in the long run.
You're a boater. Whether you're in a canoe, a kayak, or a stand-up paddleboard, you're a boater, and there are a lot of safety precautions and rules that you have to abide by and to make sure that you're safe. And a good way to learn those is we have a free non-motorized paddle sport. So basically, kayaks, canoes, just anything without a motor. A free link on our website where you can go take a course. It's not even so much a course, it's more of just all the information to keep you safe. So you can go and same our Fish and Wildlife website underneath boating, right next to your online boater education certification card course. There's a link to the paddle sports course.
All of these laws that we've been talking about, everything that you're inspecting and whatever you're doing in a boat, the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife's Law Enforcement Division, whom we know as conservation officers, that's your charge, isn't it, Major Carrier, that your group is in charge of recreational boating in the Commonwealth?
That is correct. We are the law enforcement agency on the water. There are a small handful of other agencies in the state that may do a little bit of that. Louisville Metro has a river patrol unit.
Coast Guard is also in Louisville, right?
Coast Guard on the Ohio River because it's navigable waterways, and they do a lot of the commercial stuff. Coast Guard usually focuses on commercial activities, so it falls on us as far as recreational boating enforcement. That's been around for a few years now in the agency. The old-time game wardens for years merged with Water Patrol back in the 90s, and it's become basically a threefold mission for our Kentucky conservation officers as we focus on hunting, fishing, and boating. We do not receive any general tax fund dollars. And we hear some of them saying, well, I don't want my hunting, fishing dollars going towards boating enforcement for these recreational boaters, skiing, and things like that. Well, that's not the case. We receive boat registration fee money from the state as well as grant money from the U.S. Coast Guard to do the boating enforcement. So hunting, fishing dollars from license sales is not spent on boating enforcement. It's close to 40% of our law enforcement budget is paid for with boating funds that we use to do this boating enforcement.
You all are the guys. You are the law. This isn't just somebody can wave you off or say, no, you're a rent-a-cop.
Yeah,
because you're not that.
No, we're fully trained, statewide jurisdiction to enforce all laws of the Commonwealth, and we focus on hunting, fishing, boating, but we handle whatever we encounter while we're out there working those three missions. whether it be domestic violence on the water, and we run into some illegal narcotics, meth labs, things like that.
I've heard you say that before, that on the water is just a community. It may as well be on land because you get all the laws.
We get all
the violations.
That's true. Many of the same violations that happen on land happen on water, and the same people that violate the law on the land, we get them on the water as well. It's just a different environment, same group of people. I'm not by any means saying all boaters are criminals, but there's the criminal element on the water just like it is on the land, and we are out there, and we're the only ones that have the means to patrol. We have the boats, we have the training to operate the boats,
and you've got the handcuffs,
and we do. If we need you to stop for something, you need to stop.
Here's something I want you just to comment on that I have actually seen people do, and they will say, you're pulling me over for this, and if you're pulling a skier, you need a spotter. And if you don't have a spotter, what can you do? Can you use a rear view mirror? How does that work?
You can use a wide-angle mirror.
And a spotter is somebody that's actually watching the person ski.
That's correct. What we run into, and the reason it becomes such a safety issue, is the operator of the boat spends the majority of their time looking back, keeping an eye on the skier or the tuber that they're pulling and not watching where they're going. It becomes a safety issue, thus the reason the law mandates that you have to have a spotter that is helping you watch the skier while you're navigating the boat and watching where you're going, or a wide-angle mirror where you can keep an eye on your skier while maintaining, facing forward and watching the direction of travel. So yes, make sure you have a spotter on board or a wide-angle mirror before you pull any type of skier or tuber.
Something that hasn't got a lot of lip service from this show, although there is a very cute commercial out there about marine sanitation. If you're in a houseboat, don't dump your holding tank into the lake. It's not a good thing to do. What's your minute message on holding tank and sanitation?
Yeah, that's correct. Make sure your Y valve's closed so your holding tank is holding, and then use the pump out stations at the marinas. That's what those are for, to pump out your holding tanks, unless you're on a discharge lake. Lake Cumberland and Kentucky, I think I would have to look, are the two that we have. The rest of them, you need to go to a pump out station and pump out your holding tank at a marina.
The catchphrase of that commercial, Zach, if you've heard it, it's cute, is to use your holding tank wisely or hold it in. Anything else, gentlemen?
Remember,
alcohol and water don't mix. Leave alcohol at home.
Always wear your life jacket because your life jacket's got your back.
Indeed it does. Major Shane Carrier and Zac Campbell, thanks so much for coming out.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Thanks, Charlie.
One of your fellow conservation officers, Officer Rich Waite, with a wise idea for any boat that you might paddle. So hang tight. This is Charlie Baglin, and you are listening to Kentucky Afield Radio. Charlie Baglin back on Kentucky Afield Radio. For the past hour, we have been talking about recreational boating safety in the state. I'm going to change course a little bit. Fellow conservation officer Rich Waite. An officer, you come strolling into my studio and you say, Kentucky Afield, those kayaks that Tim Farmer uses on the TV show? I say, yeah. He said, do they have stickers on them? I said, I don't think they do. He said, well, I brought you a couple that you can put on there just in case they drift away from you. We want you to get it back. So tell me what you've brought in.
What they are is they're stickers that it was produced by the National Safe Boating Council in cooperation with the U.S. Coast Guard in order to identify paddle boats of all sorts, canoes, kayaks, things that traditionally would not have a registration number on them, to where we could run that number if we came across it, and it would come back to an owner that we could find.
So in Kentucky, what you register are motorboats, as far as rowboats, canoes, john boats, flat-bottom boats. They are not registered, right?
Yes, sir. Anything that has a mechanical propulsion or a motor of some sort has to be registered, whereas anything that's powered by the human, wind, or otherwise natural, it does not have to be registered.
But every now and then, these boats will wind up found along the shores of lakes or the shores of streams, rivers, and for some reason that becomes the responsibility of the Department of Fish and Wildlife law enforcement, conservation officers such as you.
Yes, sir. Any boat accident that involves a missing person, loss of life, or damage, severe damage to the boat, that falls under our jurisdiction, and it's our requirement to have an accident report done on that. And quite often we'll find these kayaks, canoes lost, and we always plan for the worst and hope for the best. So, it takes our resources and our local rescue squads, fire departments, state emergency management. We all come together to try and find the owners of these. And, while we hope that it's just drifted away from a houseboat or floated away from a dock, we have to immediately prepare for the worst case situation.
And that worst case would be injury, drowning?
Yes, sir. It's a time-sensitive issue, and it's something that we can't wait around for.
That would be helpful. Every now and then somebody will park their boat, and I'm sure you've come across this scads of times, where somebody's parked their boat, wandered into the woods, gone downstream to fish, they're swimming, they're whatever, and they are a ways away from their boat. In all likelihood, there is no danger, but still, is that something that has to go through your mind while you're on patrol if you see a boat in that condition?
You always hope for the best and plan for the worst. If you see a boat and there's not someone in it, you just have to start preparing for the worst, and that you're going to have to look for that person underwater instead of above.
These stickers, you handed me one that said, if found, contact. Vessel identification sticker for a canoe, a kayak, or a rowboat. Again, these are not required by law.
Yes, sir. It's totally voluntary. It's really a courtesy to the property owner, the owner of the vessel, that would help us return their property to them if someone was to locate it.
They're not asking for anything damning here. They just want to know your name and a couple of phone numbers where somebody could chase you down and say, hey, we found your boat.
That's the whole concept.
Got to use a waterproof marker. I've already filled mine out. I'm going to put it on my canoe. I've got a 15-foot canoe, and this is a good idea. In all likelihood, I'll never be without my canoe, but you never know. Who is sponsoring this program?
The National Safe Boating Council and the U.S. Coast Guard are cooperating, trying to get the message out. The National Safe Boating Council website, you can go online and they'll send them to you. And hopefully soon the Department of Fish and Wildlife will have these, so if you call in with other boating-related questions to our information center, they can provide you with these stickers also.
Again, this isn't required. And I just wanted to just make sure folks know that, and you don't have to have one of our stickers or one of the National Safe Boating Council stickers. It doesn't have to say Coast Guard on it for it to be legitimate. It can be duct tape, for all that matter, but put your name, phone number on there. Identify the boat in some way so we know whose it is.
Absolutely. Just to put your name and phone number, use a magic marker to identify it. If you want to put it somewhere inconspicuous on the outside of it, that would help us return your property to you. And the recommendation is for these to be placed in the right rear corner of a vessel. And you'll notice that the right rear corner of a vessel or a boat is where the serial number is, the hull identification number, and that is a standardized location on all boats. And to put this sticker near that number would just kind of standardize, where to look for it and make it easy to be identified. It happens quite often. The great majority of times, it's always, an accident. A boat has just come untied from a houseboat through the night. And then, 10 o'clock in the morning, we found a kayak floating in the middle of Lake Cumberland. There's 50,000 acres and 100 miles worth of main channel that you don't know where to start looking. But if you know a name and a phone number, it sure makes it a lot easier to narrow it down.
Conservation officers are, every one of you good guys. You're not doing this so you'll know where to send a citation.
No, sir.
You want to just get the thing back to them. There's no fine involved.
No, sir.
You're not in trouble.
There's no violation of the law for losing a boat. It's just accidents happen. And, it would make our life easier and your life easier if we could find it quickly and return it to the person who's missing it. The quicker you can get your boat back, the quicker you can go fishing.
Sounds like a good deal. Officer, thank you so much for stopping by. I took one of these. I'm going to put one on my canoe. We are almost out of time, and I want to give you a thought. June 7th and 8th. That's the first weekend of June. That is what we call Free Fishing Weekend. You don't need to own a fishing license to fish legally in Kentucky. And that goes for you if you live in state. That goes for your friends from out of state, too. If you want to invite them in and save a few bucks on the fishing license that they would normally have to buy, for that June 7 and 8 weekend, anybody can fish. Opportunities for you to get out. Maybe you haven't fished in a while. Maybe your life, your career has gotten in the way. Here's an opportunity. Free Fishing Weekend, June 7th and 8th, right here anywhere in Kentucky. My name is Charlie Baglin. Our time is up. Join us in a week, and we will go inside outdoors again, right here on Kentucky Afield Radio.